Hi, everybody. Glad to have you here. This is an Autumn War live show where we talk about traumatizing things that happened in a wonderful book called An Autumn War. Thank you. And Alan's also turning this into a mukbang, evidently. So,
a what?
A mukbang. You don't know what a mukbang is?
No, that's weird. Is that some weird like hippie thing?
No, it's evidently like off topic, but that's the word. It's basically when a YouTuber eats food in a video, or a video dedicated to food.
I don't like that.
Neither do I, but we've been trying to get to do one for a while for some odd reason. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thank you for this is not the end. This sounds like the end. Thank you for watching afterwards. Thank you for being here. I'm Pete. This is the Ponderings of Pete. This is my channel. I talk about fantasy. I talk about sci-fi. Oh my gosh, Anitha, keep reading. She has 2 pages left.
Oh, you got to finish that.
Yeah, just ignore us for a little bit.
The last 2 pages are crazy.
Oh yes. Yeah, so the best 2 pages in the entire book.
Keep going, and then we'll help you process. And then also we have Klaus, who's the other way. And then we also have Alan down below me, and then Chase down to that way. Chase from Chase's Book Slots. Do you guys want to go ahead and introduce your channels real quick? Elevator speech time.
I am Alan from the Library of Alexandria, and I'm the reason you can't find the bind up. Sorry.
You know, I watched the Betrayal in Winter live show, and you mentioned something about the bind up not being available. So I checked. I can't find it anywhere.
Anywhere. Like, it's out of print, and
yeah, it's gone.
I'm fairly certain that I got everybody to buy it, like who was an early adopter, like Klaus. Yeah, so I it's tough. And the thing is, you can find relatively okay on eBay all of the books except Price of Spring, because it was never released in paperback, so there's only one printing of it. But the bind up of the last 2 books, Price of War, is pretty readily available. So you can get Price of War for cheaper than you can buy a used copy of Price of Spring. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like Long Press Quartet. Sorry, Chase, did you finish this series? This book?
Just this book.
Oh,
I finished it like 30 minutes ago.
Price of Spring is it's just stupid good. Like compared, like coupled with this book, so good.
I really want to start it like as soon as we finish the live show, just because of like what happens at the end. But yeah,
Pete.
Yes, I decided to have a themed name.
I like it.
I mean, there is a lot of pain in this book, so it fits.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
There certainly is, yeah.
Yep. So, I think Klaus, do you want to? I don't know if you want to introduce your. Oh, dang, she's in shock now.
Do I want to? Do I want to introduce myself? I'm not sure about that. Yeah, my name's Klaus. I'm the Contradictorian. I talk about fantasy and reportedly also hisfic, though I haven't read any hisfic in 4 months. So I'm basically only talking about fantasy now. I have picked up the Long Press Quartet because of Alan, and that was a good idea because I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite series now, and I have read the entire series in March. Yeah.
And then Chase.
All right. Well, I am Chase from Chase's Book Thoughts, and I also, like all of you wonderful people, read lots of sci-fi and fantasy, mostly fantasy. And I picked up Long Press Quartet. I think in June I read Shadow in Summer, and really, really liked it. And so here we are, Autumn War. Really, really loved it.
Yep. And then me and Chase are. Excuse the background noise. I have a roommate that is lonely right now, but I have only read through Autumn War, and I believe Chase, that's where he also is, since he's just finished it. And then Mr. Heartless here and Books Made Good have finished the entire series.
It's so good.
So yeah, we have a nice balance of people that are have actually read the entire series and have not. So, Chase, how are you processing things since you finished it 30 seconds ago? Initial thoughts?
Are we spoiling?
Yes. We're going to do a brief spoiler-free session for all of you that need to get convinced to read it, which you totally should. And then we're going to head into spoilers later on.
To be honest with you, I am just going to repress everything because it hurts so much. That's my plan. It was brilliant. I really liked Betrayal in Winter, and I really liked Shadow in Summer, but this one just like knocked both of them out of the water, and I didn't know how it was going to be able to do that, but it did, and very quickly. So like within the first like 50 pages, I already thought it was better. I was really shocked.
I think because Katrina and Angela have both finished the series as well, and their favorite is Price of Spring, which I completely understand. It is also a fantastic book. I think if you like or buy into Ballister Geist, I think that has a lot to do with if this one's your favorite or not, because Ballister Geist is such a fantastic antagonist. I was sold from the prologue where his story of, his rich kid whose town flooded because of an NDOT, and his rich dad wouldn't save his best friend because his best friend was one of the peasants. And now he has gone into that desert, which Abraham, there's no showing at all, or there's no telling at all. It's just like you see glimpses of what wars with the Ondat do in that desert that we don't even see him go into, but we see him come out of. The fact that, what does it say? The ground fell under their feet as if it was made of paper. Just how much damage Andot can do. And he comes out of there with that book and the singular focus that, what does he say, Pete? Men with gods in their pockets, or gods on their shoulders, or whatever, that no one should have that power. Nobody. And that singular focus was just so bone chilling to me, because he says it's not about gold. It's not about gold. It's not about honor. It's not about any of that. All those are buzzwords that we tell you so that you'll do what we ask you to do as soldiers. Yeah. This is about no one having the power to destroy the world in their pocket. You know why they haven't done it yet? Because they haven't chosen to. That's it. That's literally the only thing that stopped them from completely wiping us out over here in Galt, is the fact that they haven't decided to yet. And I was sold from that prologue. I was sold. And Geist is gonna do whatever he needs to do. And that's just gonna happen. And plus Ballister Geist is a freaking awesome name. It's just such a cool name. So that's where I was, non-spoiler. Everything else is spoiler filled.
What you were saying about how Ballister Geist doesn't really buy into all the kind of, like you said, buzzwords that military leaders kind of tell you and politicians tell you. I remember at one point in the book, he's straight up honor. I don't know what honor is. I don't know what that is. And
yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And he's just he has that singular focus of just, like he says, destroying the Ondot. And
yeah. But it's all in service to that. His goal is not bad. It's protection. It's defense for Galt, because he's right. At any time, the Khayyim could get cheesed off at Galt and just be like, cool, bye. We've seen it almost happen in the first 2 books. So, good stuff.
Definitely. Klaus?
Yeah, he's like an arrow. He's just like, when his friend died when he was young, that was basically the bow, and he's just an arrow. He has laser beam focus. He's just one direction in his life, and that direction is to destroy the Undead. And he's not I wouldn't even say he's a bad person for that, because truly, he's right. It's just the Undead are like nuclear weapons, and I guess everybody would agree that a world without nuclear weapons would be a better world, because it's kind of bad when some people can push a button somewhere and entire nations get destroyed. So, and the way he just interacts with everybody around him, he just has that focus, and he's just a driven man, but he isn't necessarily a bad person, I think. So, and that's why he reminded me so much of Abercrombie characters, because he isn't really the villain. Although he is the villain, he is more like an anti-hero, because he is doing what is right, because these Undead shouldn't exist. And as Alan said, they just haven't chosen to destroy them. And they can, if the Kai of whatever city wakes up in the morning and is angry at someone for something, and I don't know, because his wife died and he loses his mind, he just tells his poet to destroy that city over there, he's totally gonna do it. Just like that. Just like that, and it shouldn't be this way.
Yeah, I totally like what Anita is saying here. Is like I'm like Alan, where I was hooked from the prologue. Like that prologue, I sent Alan like 4 or 5 Voxer messages after that. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
I think that could be kind of like a turnoff for people, potentially. But the way I see it is that the level of trauma that he went through just in that one day, like when his entire city was just destroyed and his best friend was lost, and walking among like all the dead bodies when the water went away, like that's enough to derail your entire life. And that will set you on a course. I mean, like he's John Wick, you know, and you know, he's like laser focused on trying to destroy the Ondat, and not like just conquer them. He says this at one point, like he doesn't want to conquer anything. He wants to destroy them.
That's because, and that's when we get into the things that he does to ensure his goal. I mean, right from the prologue, we see that he is willing to sacrifice like his 20 closest men, like men that have been with him their entire careers. He goes in, what 3 of them walk out, Geis and 2 others. Like he lost his 17 like closest soldiers to get that book out of that desert. And I mean, that Abraham does such a great job just showing how committed he is in that. And he's sad that it cost them their lives, but it's further proof because they died in the desert that was warped by the freaking Andot war back in the ancients, that, you know, the last war they had thousands of years ago or whatever. And so, I mean, that all that does is prove that he's right. Like it just feeds into what I'm doing is the right thing to do. And these men won't have died for nothing. So.
And considering the unreliability of the Ondot in so many situations throughout the series, I mean, it's amazing that nobody, like in the Kayam, have just kind of thought about it. Like, do none of you really realize the damage that you like could do like that?
I don't think they did before. I think they start to in this book realize how powerful the Andot are.
Geis clearly is a book lover because he sacrifices all of those men just to get one book out of the desert. So
yeah, but
that's cool. I'm fine with that.
But let's
you should have a BookTube channel.
Let's get to spoilers, Klaus.
But this book was amazing, and I think Abraham did very well. I mean, I saw one review that was talking about like they weren't sure if, I think it was actually on the back of the book, weren't sure if like he was going to be good at war. And I think he did it in such an interesting way. And he did portray it very well, despite like, oh, maybe this isn't the best way to do things. But he still, like, he wrote everything so well and everything was so believable. And the culture of the Kaim is just so interesting to talk about because of, like, they're basically sitting there with nuclear weapons and they don't have any ambition. Their ambition doesn't reach outside of their city walls. Which is
pretty, they're pretty. I mean, they're pretty stagnant, but they you know, they also have this superiority. And Abraham's characters are just like second to none. They're fantastic, and they're fantastic. We get so many good character moments in this book, and then some even better ones in Price of Spring. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why the Kaim don't have ambition beyond is partially because of the system with the Daikavo. That if there was an ambitious Daikavo, because a lot of the way that I've heard the book talked about, either the Daikavo system within the book or people outside the book talking about, they talk about it as if the Daikavo was ruling all of the Kaim.
I mean, he kind of is. I mean, they
to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, everyone defers to the Daikavo. Like when the Daikavo is in this book, when Ota he's just training soldiers just in case, because he sees how close they've come to war. And Ota's the only one that knows. Ota's the only one that's been like at the cusp. Ota and Mati have been the only ones that have seen how close the Kayams come to war with Galt twice in 15 years. So, Ota's doing that, and the Daikavo's like, hey, stop. Stop. It's the Daikavo that tells him to stop, not the other Kai. Yeah. So, I mean, he's kind of like the religious figure, but they're like they're a theocracy, really, where each of the kings run their own city, but that's all under the authority of,
the Daikavo.
Yeah.
It feels a lot like feudal Japan to me.
And where the Daikavo is
where you kind of mix it with, like, I don't know, the Pope or something, and then you kind of like have the daimyo from feudal Japan, like kind of taking the place of the Kai and that kind of thing.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
So
I do feel like he has less power than the Pope, though.
Yeah. So this is spoilers now. Anita just took us there. So we've got spoilers now.
We're gonna go straight into spoilers now, since Anita's impatient. Gosh, Anita.
I have to, like, the reason this is my favorite book is because it is, first of all, and we're all going to talk about this. I didn't realize that what Abraham does in the climax of this book, you were allowed to do as an author. Like, it's like nothing I'd ever seen. I didn't even know you could do that. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the most hard-hitting character moment, and what still pains me, that I still think about, and that showed to me how brilliant Abraham is, and proved that he had written this whole thing in his head when he wrote the prologue of book 1, when freaking Sterile says, "Hey, Ota, like, what do you think was going to happen? Mati should not have been a poet. He is not strong enough. He's too angry. He doesn't have the character to be a poet." And the school would have discovered that and, moved him along, if not for you giving the game up to him. So Ota's decision in the prologue of Shadow and Summer has led to this moment right here. And I'm getting chills talking about it. It is so brilliant. Like, that is not something that you as an author are like, oh, well, I got a third book to you. I guess, so what can happen in the third book? No, you knew exactly where it was going, like, from that moment. And that is so brilliant that it was set up from the beginning, that moment. And I just feel Mati he's just such a tragic character who is just trying his best, but just kind of sucks. And I feel bad for him. He's so fascinating. He's an absolutely fascinating character, and just sucks. Sorry. It's not fair. It isn't fair. Like, everything goes wrong for Mati. Everything goes right for Ota. And it's not fair. It's not fair. And I understand his pain. I do. But man, that scene with Sterile is absolutely brilliant. Like, I'm still stunned. I'm going to sit in stunned silence while y'all talk about it now.
What Sterile ended up doing, my jaw dropped. I was like, that didn't just happen.
You can't
Mati,
do that.
You've got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Like, this is all your fault, Mati. But, like, at the same time, it was just, I couldn't believe that had actually happened. And the scope and scale of what Sterile did, like that, just no problem at all. I was just really shocked, because, like, the whole time, like, throughout the series, there's lots of people talking about what the Ondot could do in any given situation. Like Stone Made Soft could basically make a sinkhole right under Galt and just throw him right in there, or just like tons of crazy stuff. But you don't actually see that on a huge scale. And then you see Sterile just, and what, like, her little kind of short monologue that she has is like super fascinating about how half-breeds, she says, that like they will determine the future and not like the two separate nations.
Yeah. And I sort of predicted that the whole price thing was going to like Matty's whole, oh, we can offshoot the price. We can make it so that the author doesn't, the poet doesn't pay the price. And I was like, that's a little bit easy. I think that I was like, yeah, it's probably going to get shunted off to somebody else. And I was terrified for Iaya because I was like, oh, she's getting close. This feels like foreshadowing that something bad's going to happen to Iaya. You better not. You're probably going to do, but you better not. And then he did it to everybody.
Yeah. There's no way you can predict the entire country. No. Both nations are going to get sterilized. Like I said, you can't predict that. That's it. No. You can't do that. You can't, like, you cannot, as an author, like, I didn't realize you could do something that changes the very world state to that large a degree. You don't see that a lot. And I mean, I think I know there's a couple other fantasy books or series that I've read over, forever that do similar things, but nothing to that scale. Like, you change like the landscape of like your little area, not like the entire like world as they know it.
And that's kind of like Ota and Balasar's conversation toward the end of the book, where they're just sitting there and they're talking, and you're like, oh yeah, this is really serious. But for a second, like, it doesn't really sink in that they're literally discussing the fate of the world, and like as they know it. And that's just huge. I've never read anything like that kind of really put so much emphasis on the fact that the entire world has changed and will continue to change, and you can't go back from that. It's just so well written. I can't believe it.
It's just, are you talking, Pete, or did you mute yourself?
Other reasons.
It's just the perfect use of Chekhov's gun, because for 2 books there's been just build up. I mean, obviously there was stuff happening, especially to Ota. I mean, he was that orphan boy, and now he is the most powerful man in the entire country. But still, and that didn't really use their powers, and then he just like that. It's like they aren't shooting all the time. They don't even shoot their guns, and then he's just throwing a bomb at something out of nowhere, and it's just the scope and the implications of it is just completely incredible. And I also think it's really interesting, that monologue that you've mentioned before, how the Andats sort of try to influence the world. Like, they could have sterilized all of them, but instead they make it so that from the one nation there are the women who can still have children, and on the other hand there is the other nation where only the boys can get those women pregnant. So they sort of have to work together now. And I just wonder why they would do that. Why they wouldn't just kill all the humans and be like, then I can live in peace, and wherever I, as an Andat, living, like in space or whatever. And it's really interesting that the Andat have motives, because I just thought the only motive was to be free, and now they sort of try to influence the way these nations deal with each other. So that's an interesting point as well.
And like what Angela's saying as well is like every time we see the Andats have traits of their summoner, of their poet. And so like Mati failed. He failed to bind the Andat, but he did summon it. He just didn't bind it. But it still has those it's still got part of Mati's characteristics. You know what I mean? And Mati was trying to do good. And so that's probably why it just doesn't wipe everybody out. Like, someone's got to pay the price, and it ends up being not Mati. And I didn't see that coming, Pete, at all. I was like, all right, like, go. I just thought he was going to botch it because Mati's a boob.
He's a constant failure, yeah.
I feel so bad for Mati all the time. Poor guy.
And I think that I think Balazar said this, but he said that there are like worse things than dying, and I think that that's kind of what Sterile did, is she sentenced them to something that is worse than dying. And considering that they were going to war, now that they're going to have to, form together and kind of merge, that's probably not going to be very pleasant for them, but they're going to have to do it. And I feel like to the end, watching people that forced them to do whatever they wanted, I feel like that makes them feel better than just watching them all die slowly.
Yeah. And continuing on that with what Anita said, something about Balasar Gleiss. Do you guys think that he became what he tried to prevent?
I mean, no, because he's doing it. I think it's the exact same thing that he set out to do. I mean, I don't think Balasar cares what he's becoming. Balasar doesn't give a crap about what kind of person he is, about what kind of legacy he leaves. He doesn't care. He cares about a goal, and everything he does is in service of that goal. And every action that he takes, including the genocide that takes place, he has to kill everyone who could possibly know how to summon an Andot. If he leaves any of them, he has failed. If he leaves anyone alive that could possibly one day teach someone else how to summon an Andot, he has failed. And unfortunately for people who care about, human life, that includes genocide and wiping out an entire people. He doesn't want to kill every person in the Kayate, but he has to kill every person who could possibly know how to summon an Andot. So, I mean, a lot of women die as well, but he doesn't focus on killing the women. He focuses on killing the poets and anybody who stands in his way and burning the books. Like, that's what he's focused on. So I don't think he's become what he hates, because his goal isn't to destroy the Kayate, even though he says it is. His goal is to destroy the knowledge of the Andot. The destruction of the Kayate is just the unfortunate consequence of that. Like, he doesn't care if it grows back into something that doesn't have the Andot. He doesn't want a people obliterated. Just that specific knowledge he views as unacceptable. And I thought that was really interesting too. Is like, he is a force of nature rather than a person.
And he says this is in the last 2 pages of the book that like builds off what you were saying. He says, what do you do when you finished your life's work and haven't died?
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That's great writing right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it perfectly like represents the fact that he's done everything he set out to do, and he has no idea what to do now. Not really. And I think that's super interesting. I just want to know, like, if there's going to be anything from him going forward, like in the next book. But he's just a really, really interesting character. And considering he's only been around for 1 book, I'm shocked at how much, like, I'm fascinated and interested in him.
Definitely. It's and on the other side is there's technically still one person, Mati, who could summon an Andot. So that's very interesting that he technically failed.
Well, he's also not perfect either. As Anita's saying here, like in Udon, like, he allows his men to run rampant and kill everyone. He's not perfect. He let his emotions get the best of him. He allowed vengeance and revenge and anger to color his orders, which is why he lets them run rampant and slaughter everybody in that town, and later regrets it because he shouldn't have. Like, he's supposed to be focused on the goal. He's not supposed to be affected by, all this other stuff. And that's where he became human instead of being that, that force of will. He lost it there. None of these characters are perfect. And I like that when they show when they call Ota to show what Mati's done, and Ota's just like, you need to go. And Mati's like, oh, well, I mean, we could go here. He's like, no. I need to not know where you are when my wife finds out about what's happened. Like, I need to not be able to tell her where you've gone. And that I got chills again. That's such a good line, because he's stunned, but he knows Kian's going to have a couple things to say. Who, by the way, I love Kian.
Best character in the series.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's so good.
I thought her relationship with Liat was really well done in this book.
Yeah.
Especially after what Sterile did. The scene that Liat had with Kian was really, really good. It was really, really tense.
Yeah.
I mean, Leon was just like, let me be broken. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts. I really want to know like where their story arcs are going, like in the next book.
Read the next book.
Just read it, man. It's next.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that he's very consistent with Mati just screwing up and everything going wrong, because to the point that even though Ota,
I can't even.
Even though Ota lost, his daughter can't have kids, his line will still continue because his son is still alive. That was probably going to die of. He might still get sick and die, but he was basically on the doors of death with his sickness. And Mati's son, who is not a son, another screw up on Mati's part to a certain extent that kind of just screwed him over. That part, his son, by everything except blood, ended up dying. So it's so consistent, and you feel like you should be able to almost predict it, because you know it's going to be consistent, that Mati's going to screw up and Mati's going to botch it and Mati's going to get screwed over.
Well, Mati he's been screwing stuff up for 3 books now. I don't think he's going to stop now.
Well, Mati's character is Mati. He knows that he's a screw up,
Mm-hmm.
but like, he's so real because he just wants to show everyone that he's not. Like, he wants to fix it. That's the whole thing with Sterile, is like, he wants to show like, okay, he screwed up in Saraket. He didn't really screw up in Betrayal of Winter, but he just didn't help. Like, he wasn't very, he wasn't very useful. He was just kind of there.
Yeah.
And he just wants to show like, hey, like, I can fix this. Like he has that, you see that little kid inside. And that's the thing. Mati is a child still. He has that thing of like, look, like, I'm going to be the hero today. Like, I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be the one that saves everyone, because he just wants to be respected. Like, he wants to have, he's a child with like, who's never grown up from that unqualified kid who's crying because Ota made him eat dirt. Like, he's still that kid.
And I think it's great to see the development, because at the start of the series, at the start, like in the first scene, they Ota is still above Mati, but then Mati sort of overtakes him because he is supposed to become a poet. And Ota leaves his name behind, leaves everything behind, and still he manages to become the Kai, and is like the most important person in the entire nation now. And Mati just keeps getting deeper and deeper into trouble, and he really tries. He tries so hard. He keeps trying to change everything, to be the hero, and then it all comes crashing down once again, and he just has to leave, and there's nothing. And his son dies protecting Ota's son, and that makes it even worse. And yeah.
He's literally the embodiment of a Linkin Park song.
I mean, like, I always say it. He is Shakespearean in his tragedy.
Yeah.
Like, that scene absolutely made me cry. I was sitting at the kitchen table reading and eating my Chick-fil-A, and I was just crying. Like, it was so painful. And the thing is, like, from the beginning of the book, when Mati was like, you know what, I think I can fix this, I was like, I really want to believe you, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
I don't trust you.
Yeah.
No.
And Angela's right. Like, how often have we made situations worse because we tried to fix it. We tried to make it
I never
better.
tried to fix anything because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why Klaus's Andot is heartless. But yeah, I mean, I know that I have made things worse rather than just taking my lumps and moving on. Instead, trying to make it better. And the thing is, when you summon an Andot, all of those emotions that you hide down to pretend that you're a better person than you are, no choice. When you summon an Andot, that crap comes out. You can hide it to the world, but not for the binding. And that's what we see with Mati. We see how petty he is and how angry he is. He wants to make people pay, and he does. So it's just so sad. Poor Mati.
And it was set up from Shadow and Summer, which is so amazing. And that's you see that Seedless and oh my gosh, what was his name? It started with a C, right? No, that was the other guy. Seedless and Seedless's poet.
Heshai.
Heshai. Samai is Snowmade Soft.
Oh yeah, Samai is the Snowmade Soft one. Yeah.
So Heshai, I feel like Heshai and Seedless saw the weakness in Mati. And that's part of the reason why Seedless was the way he was. And it's so amazing that you have to wait 3 books to figure that mystery out.
Yeah.
But y'all
sorry, go ahead.
Y'all know what the best line in the entire book is, don't you?
What?
Oh, that's interesting.
Dang it, Klaus! I was literally about to say that exact thing.
Incredible. Like
that line where Stone made soft.
He summons that on that, and then he's just sitting there and he's like, oh, that's interesting. And then he's gone just like that. Amazing.
It's so incredible, Klaus. Yes.
Brilliant.
It's just so good. Because he could have made such a different author would have written that differently. Like it would have been a huge deal. Instead, like you said, he's just sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden, they look at him and he's just like, that's interesting. And then it's gone. And Samai's face is just like blanched white. And everyone's like, what's the matter? And he's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And they're like, oh crap, we better go get Ota. And that's when Ota figures out what Geist has been doing and what Geist is. Oh my gosh. And then they shank that other poet, which is good. That guy's an idiot. The summoner of bondage, free from bondage.
I thought it was funny how Balasar was pretty heavy, relying on him, but then he seemed a lot like Heshai, just kind of drunk and just kind of a little bit inept, and the fact that they were relying on him so much was just.
Well, he was also angry, because he got kicked out of the school for being a twerp.
Yeah. I think
still a twerp.
He was different from Heshai because Heshai was drinking to get away from himself, and the other guy, the freedom from bondage summoner, was drinking to feel, almost not really to feel something. He was drinking because he was angry at the world and not angry at himself.
Yeah.
And he was arrogant.
I think Heshai, in retrospect, is even more a tragic character than I thought he was when I finished Shadow and Summer. Looking at everything that's happened now, I'm like, how are all of you not Heshai right now?
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys still going?
How is Mati not an alcoholic by now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Samai, Samai is represents what Mati should have been. What Mati and Ota should have been. That should have been their life. And Samai doesn't have a bad life, or didn't before Edan came into it. But and it's just the young guy who's took over a poet and moves on. But neither Ota nor Mati ended up being what they thought they were going to be. I think I really like the.
This is so well said. Very well said, Angela.
Oh yes. Yeah, I agree. It's really well said. Yeah. I think the female characters are done phenomenally well in this book. I think seeing the women hold together the cities while the men are at war is brilliant. Because it's not that the women are incompetent. The women of the Kayate are not incompetent. They are just forbidden by, they just don't have a major role in the government because of, tradition and culture. And it's always been this way. But watching Kian and Liat like rise to the occasion of keeping things going while Ota is, at war. And sorry, on a side note, saying Ota at war, I loved the passage where he gets into his first battle and he's like, it is nothing like he thought it was going to be. It was too freaking loud. Like it was way louder than he thought he was going to be. And the fact that he gets the crap kicked out of him, like, again, in other series, we see, oh, he's trained and, he's done this. He's had his training montage and now he goes out and he beats the bad guy. No, crap kicked out of him, wrecked, big crumped, like done. So good. It's just so much unexpected stuff. Yes, Sinja sucks. I didn't think we were talking about the things we hate yet. Sinja's the worst.
Before we talk about Sinja, what you said about women, I think women get more and more important in every single book of the series. Like in the first book, they don't really have any significance to the plot, except from, what's her name, the old woman?
Amat, I think.
Amat Kian, yeah, precisely. And the second book, we have Idan, which is obviously a more proactive character, and she has a lot of agency. And in this book, they get more important, but in the final book, their role is really... Yeah. They are more important than the men in the final book.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So I didn't hate Sinja. As I said in the last live show, I think, he reminded me of that game character, so I never could like take him seriously because Sinja and yeah. But I didn't hate him. I think he redeemed himself when he saved the little boy at the ending, so...
That was one of the best scenes in the book for me.
What, Sinja saving the who does he save?
The son of Mati.
Danat. No, Niat is the son of Mati.
Niat, yeah. Danat dies, and Niat is the other one, yeah.
Isn't that reversed? Niat dies, Danat survives. Danat is Ota's kid.
Yeah.
No idea.
Ota and Kian's kid is Danat.
Yeah.
And he survived. Ota and Liat dies.
Oh yeah, true.
And when Nayit was like, he was just like, tell them that,
Nayit, sorry. Yeah.
He was like, I tell them that I fought and that I died well. And that was just, it hurt.
His obsession with Kian bothers me because I don't like it when people who are friends, like, I don't like it when they betray each other. Like, I don't like that. Like, Sinja is supposed to be, close lieutenant of Ota and still is, but they had that weird thing, and it's never said. Like, we know that he's in love with Kian. We definitely know that. We know there was something weird that happened, but we don't know if, like, did Kian actually cheat on Ota, or did, like, Sinja just, like, make overtures, or, like, we just don't know, and that's frustrating because I want to know. But I'm like, Sinja, stop. Like, just stop.
15 years.
Like, yeah. Find
He's
another.
the Severus Snape of this series, basically.
Oh my gosh. Same thing with Snape. Find another girlfriend. I gotta know.
Yeah, because this happened. Didn't it happen technically during Betrayal in Winter? Between the time that, because Ota left.
I think it happens. It happens between. It happens sometime in the 15 years between the books. Yeah.
Okay, that makes it a little bit more. What?
Yeah, it happens sometimes between the books, and there's there's the one throwaway line about what happened, and then Sinja's just like, "I love Kian."
Yeah, that kind of bothered me, honestly, because
I really understand it.
Yeah, other than that, I feel like Abraham really handled the time jumps really well.
I agree.
I was really impressed because I feel like you run the risk as a writer of ending up with a lot of info dumps trying to explain what happened because you didn't want to write another book about what happened in that time period. But like, I feel like there were enough bits and pieces like sprinkled throughout that I didn't really need to know everything that happened in that 14 years of time. And honestly, I feel like that's ideal when you're doing time jumps.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know enough of what happened, but you don't want to know everything.
And I think the time jumps are really effective in the series because, like, this way you can see the implications and the effects of what these characters do. Because 15 years later, everything that they have done has affected something, and you can see that change. And that's especially true for the final book when you read that, because obviously things change now. So Chase, excited to hear your thoughts on that,
Yeah.
on how things have changed in between this time.
I definitely am going to be reading this like this week. I was thinking of holding off for a little bit, but after that, I just can't.
It's not possible.
Read Price of Spring. I also really I love, like, time jumps, like you said, like time jumps aren't always done super well, but I love that we see, because there's these time jumps, we see the growth of Ota and Mati, especially how they have changed over the course of, by the end, you know, they're in their late 60s by the end, if not the 70s. Like, it's been it's been 45 years since we first met them, and the ways that they have changed, but also the ways that they are still the same. Like, Mati is still that child he was 30 years ago. He still has those insecurities. He still has those desires to please. You know, from the prologue, he wants to please Ota. He wants Ota to like him. He wants to be impressive to Ota, and he sucks. So Ota makes him eat dirt, you know? And he's still that way. And Ota is still just the guy trying to live his life without people bothering him, like without being told what he has to do. You know what I mean? Like, and trying to do the right thing by everybody. And they're still that way. But they also change. Like, they act, he has done well in writing them differently. Even though Mati is that same child, the way he speaks and the way he acts, he doesn't sound like the teenager he does in Shadow and Summer. Same thing with Ota. And so I think Abraham's just really adept at showing through their dialogue and through their actions how they've matured in the ways that they haven't over the course of this timeline.
Something that I've noticed reading this series, like a theme that's really prevalent, is identity. And I feel like that was really prominent in the second book. But like here, Ota, like, really accepting who he has to be. And, you know, I think it was Nayit who was like, I don't know who I just want to be who I want to be. I don't know, like, and with the Dawn in book 2, you know, the fact that she realizes that she's kind of made this path for herself and she has to become that person to be able to get out of it. I think that it's really well done. And I think that identity plays like a huge part in the price, if you will, of what these people have to pay.
Poor Adon. Poor Mati. Poor everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am curious to see if Adon. I'm not sure. My original inclination is that she won't appear again, but I'm interested to see if Adon pops up in Price of Spring.
Price of Spring is excellent.
I would like to see Adon again. I kind of feel like exile is a little too easy. I feel like that's not a proper conclusion. And if she just like dies off screen or something, I would just be a little, I wouldn't really like that. But, you know, I do want some interaction with her, because her confrontation, like with Ota toward the end of Betrayal in Winter, that was a really, really good scene when he was like, go. Like, I'm not going to kill you. You just need to go.
Ota has a habit of doing that, is like telling people to go, run away and never return. Anita, I think the reason it keeps repeating forges, plumes of smoke rise from forges, is because all the forges are working to make the mechanisms of war. Like, I think I think it's repeated just to continue to signify that that this is total warfare. At least that's how I took it, but because I noticed that as well.
I feel like I don't like I can't say that I notice things that are repeated like that in books. Like, I just plow through it.
Things that are repeated, like, they immediately jump out at me. Like, I can't not, because again, I'm hypersensitive to pattern recognition, unfortunately, because of whatever's wrong with my brain. But like, so when I see the things just pop up, that's why I had to do when I read Akatar, I had to finally do a freaking tracker because the same things happen. And then Pierce Brown and his obsession with latifundia and truculent. I'm like, you can't, like, those words aren't common enough for you to repeat. Stop it.
Can't make fetch happen.
And then what was it? Was it Upstart in the?
Oh my gosh, and the wolf yes,
Upstart, yeah, upstart. Oh my god,
that's bad enough to where anyone can notice it. Like anyone would notice that because it happens bloody often.
They called Ota Upstart a lot in, I think, Betrayal in Winter, and I was just like, please stop saying
it. Was not nearly as common as the wolf, or else I'd have noticed it, because stupid upstarts. Stop calling people that. Abraham's just a brilliant character writer. Like, he's just so good with these characters. Like, they act like real people and they make real decisions, and a lot of them are terrible. A lot of them are bad decisions. Please stop. Please don't make that decision. That's a bad decision. But they do it because they're human. Like, they just feel so freaking human. They just do. So good.
You know, there was never a moment, like, with the dialogue that I was like, oh, nobody would say that. You know,
ever.
Yeah. There's been so many books that I read, I'm just like, oh, that feels a little much. Feels like it's just serving the plot. But like when I've read the last two books, because I read Betrayal in Winter yesterday and Autumn War today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought you had already finished Winter.
No. But there was never a moment in all those pages where I was like, these don't feel like real people to me.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I think it's easy to get lost in like the Shakespearean label and kind of like make that seem like they're not as real, but that just really enhances the character work for me.
Yeah, it's Shakespearean in the fact that, you know, the tragedy that happens, like only Shakespeare makes characters these freaking sad. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a different kind of like, oh, someone died, I cried. It's just incredible sorrow that these people are going through. I don't know. It just is not, I don't know.
And the fact that they keep going too.
Yeah.
The fact that they're not all alcoholics or drug addicts is just like, dang.
Yeah. Heshai lost. Yeah. Heshai lost the fight.
Yeah. Do you guys think, switching over to another question I had that I did notice is the frequency of poses has decreased significantly from the first book.
I agree. I think he understands that, you know, what it, I think he understands that, you know, that's how they communicate. And so he uses it sparingly. It's like when you introduce a character and they talk with like an accent, like you don't have to make you don't have to accent every bloody word. Like dialect, I despise reading dialect. Mark Twain. Like, read freaking anything by Mark Twain and the dialect that's bloody everywhere. You don't have to do that. You can just hint, you can accent like a certain vowel sound and you understand that that's how they talk. Like, if I'm reading a book and a character says, it was him what done it, all they've done is say it was him what done it. And I know that person's accent. That person's English. That person is a British person, because Americans don't say it was him what done it. We don't say that. He did it. That's what we say. But it was him what done it. Like, you can convey it without being overbearing. But I think in the first book, you don't know anything about them. Mm-hmm. So it has to be more in your face in the first book. But I definitely did not notice it much in 3, and definitely not in 4. So
I think it adds to it. I think that it really is a unique bit of world building. And I feel like whenever I read a lot of fantasy books, they're like, oh, well, they had this foreign accent. And it's like, how am I supposed to know what that sounds like? Like, I've never heard of or seen this land before, let alone like heard anyone speak from there. So I don't really fully comprehend what you're trying to tell me as an author. And so like here with the poses, I feel like it's a very communicable way of understanding how these people talk and communicate and gesture. I feel like it really enhances it. And considering that the prose is a little sparse, but like in the best way, it just saying something as simple as like, he took a pose of thanks, it conveys a lot. And I think that Abraham's prose is just as good as anything else that he does.
Though to be honest, yes, you don't. Obviously, you can't recognize the accent, but of course, you can't also. If he takes a pose of acceptance, Abraham never tells us what that pose is. He never says like he's lifting his hand or he's showing us his palm, whatever. So that's true as well. It's just, I mean, as a writer, that's a brilliant idea because it just saves a lot of time because you can just have these people tell everybody, I'm accepting that or I'm not accepting that by having them take the pose. So that's quite helpful. And it reminds me of that one character in Mistborn who doesn't speak the language that well, because that keeps getting better and better, because obviously he's learning the language.
Yeah,
But
Spook.
yeah,
Something
so that's the same thing in a way.
Reading the poses, it makes me a lot more conscious of my own body language and like my gestures, so that like I try to think like what that gesture would be like when I read it, like what kind of pose that would be.
I'd be interested in seeing what the author's concept of the poses were. Like what when he was writing this, what did he see in his mind as what a pose of acceptance was? Or a pose of acceptance with subtlety of just with sarcasm in the background.
Yeah. It's I mean, like they talk, especially in the first book, about the nuance of the poses, because they always make fun of the Galts who are trying to do them that can't do them right. Like they're doing them, but they're not doing them well. So
Yeah.
it can't be these like big. It's probably not these huge gestures, these huge poses. It's probably like really like barely noticeable, like slight alterations in body language or whatever. Like when I'm just like a pose of thank you. Thank you. A pose indicated he didn't know. Like, a pose of anger. Because I can't even process it, but it didn't matter. Like it conveyed what it needed to do. There's some people who don't know what they're talking about who probably think that is lazy writing. But those people have bad opinions on books.
Those people don't even read books.
Exactly. So I think it's brilliant. I think it's a really good way of communicating. Yes, Angela. Yeah,
Yes.
Angela talks with their hands a lot. Like those are poses.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I always imagine some fancy fingers as well, just like acceptance. But like, if you change your fingers in a weird way, then it might mean something else.
I wonder what they would think of. I wonder what they would think of jazz hands.
A pose of
Excitement, whatever.
A pose of applause.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit more. We did get like from Balasar and then Singe's point of view when he was with the army, we got a little bit more of the people from the Kaim taking poses to make fun of the Galts, essentially. And Balasar kind of like knew it because he was like, he took a pose of what I know to be like acceptance, but it was tinged with something that I'm not entirely sure what it was, and he's probably making fun of me. So that was nice to see from a Galt's perspective.
I did like getting more from the Galtic perspective, though, just because like I felt like that was clearly lacking beforehand. But
it was a nice build up to it, I think, because with you build up the boogeyman, and then you have Balasar Geist, which absolutely lives up to something epic and tragic that we were expecting.
With all that was going on behind the scenes with the Galts and Betrayal in Winter, I feel like not really fully seeing a huge like Galtic force probably might be a little like disorienting, going from like not really seeing them halfway through the series to the second half of the series you see a lot of them. But actually I feel like that works just because of the kind of buildup that we see in the last two books. I just felt like that was pretty well done.
Hey, it's James. Hey, James. But yeah, that was a really, really beautiful build-up.
Yeah, the stuff with the Galts is fantastic. Like, and the thing is, Geist would not have approved of the dumb crap that these people were doing in books 1 and 2. Because again, like Geis knows what these people are capable of. So he probably, like I can imagine Geis speaking in, because remember he had to go to the council to get approval for what he was doing. I can imagine him speaking against what they're trying to do, trying to undermine the economy and all that stuff, being like, guys, stop. Like what you are doing, stop. It's not going to succeed. Because even if they had succeeded, which they kind of did in Saraket, but if it had been traced back to the Galts, like, okay, you stopped one city, you got rid of one city's on dot, the rest are going to destroy you.
Yeah, you're gone now.
Yeah, so Geis was probably like, what are y'all doing? Like, you cut it off at the source or you leave them alone. Like, there's no other options.
Like, Stone Made Soft will wreck you, so, just watch out.
Stone Made Soft is terrifying.
He's so great.
He'll make you soft, yeah.
He's really creepy. Like, he's creepy in kind of a subtle way, and then sometimes he'll just say things, like, so placidly that it's just, like, really creepy how calmly he talks sometimes.
I could bring down this mountain on all of your heads and kill every one of you. Just like he's wondering what color the sky is. Like, I could kill everybody here right now. Stupid Stone Made Soft. You dummy.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like water falling or something like that. That also was just like, oh yeah, you could probably drown all your enemies and just eternal rain.
That's interesting.
This will be a gift tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just good. Like Abraham's brilliant, and really, Autumn War and Price of Spring are really two halves of one section of the story. They go together. Like Autumn War is this huge like climb, and then Price of Spring is the fallout. Yes, everything in Betrayal and Shadow have led to this, but it's the ultimate culmination in everything. It's the long price. It's just so good, and it's so hard to talk about Autumn War without also talking about Price of Spring, because they lead and complement each other perfectly. These two books complement each other so well. It's just amazing. It's amazing. And yeah, Angela and Katrina like Price of Spring best, which I completely understand that. They're very close for me.
So what makes Autumn War better for you? Because
Ballaster Guys. It's Ballaster Guys and the moment of shock and awe when I realized that Daniel Abraham literally did something that you're not allowed to do as an author, which is make everyone in the freaking world sterile. And then realizing that he had planted the seed for Mati's screw up here in the prologue of book 1. That it was just like, upon reread, it's probably going to be Price of Spring. But initially, with having read it only once, and just the amount of mind blown I was with Price of Spring, plus I really like Ballaster Guys. With Autumn War, plus I really like Ballaster Guys.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge Sinja fan, but I like Guys.
This is definitely my favorite of the three. I think that they progressively get better. Like for me, 1 is really good, 2 is very good as well, and then like just slightly better, and then 3 is a lot better.
See how you feel about 4. I'm eager to see which one you guys like the best. Pete, which one have you liked the most so far?
I think Shadow and Summer was better than Betrayal and Winter.
Hot take.
But Autumn War is definitely a favorite so far.
Yeah.
Just because, like you said, Alan, Balasar Geist is such an amazing antagonist.
I agree.
I don't agree with him. But, like, if you can make me sort of see, like, understand and logically say, that makes sense to a genocidal maniac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's some that's some really good writing.
Anita, Price of Spring will be your favorite. That's the exact same thing that Angela and Katrina said as well. That they liked Betrayal the best of the first 3. That you'll like Price of Spring the best. That's my prediction.
I can see why Angela and Anita would think so. I don't understand why Katrina would say that, obviously.
Katrina, you know what? I think I remember Klaus saying that she actually, when she was done, she didn't even like the books. So that's what I heard.
Did she read them?
Yeah, she read them and then said they weren't good because Klaus liked them. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Klaus, why do you have to like
Yeah,
things?
same.
She's not even here. She's at work. Can't even defend herself.
Gonna get an angry comment from her.
Yeah,
Angela will go tell on us.
it'll be the long price we have to pay.
The long price of Katrina.
It's so good. It's so good.
Angela is defending her.
Also, the reason why I prefer Autumn War to Price of Spring is that it has, I think, a more military setting than the others, and I in general prefer military fantasy. So
Yeah, it's the same. Agree, Klaus. I like the war part.
I think this will be an interesting, because I think as I've come onto BookTube and listen to more of Alan, I've come to like military fantasy more and more.
Thank goodness. We were talking about that earlier today in our other video, Pete. Like, I always hear people talk about, like, I liked this despite that it was military fantasy, because I usually hate military fantasy. Why? What's y'all's problem? Thank goodness Klaus is here. Good job, Klaus.
you're welcome.
I love military fantasy.
But this will be a nice litmus test of like, hey, do I like really, really like military fantasy more than other fantasy now?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. But yeah, super eager to see y'all's thoughts on Price of Spring. There's so many good things. Some of my favorite quotes are in Price of Spring. There's two quotes that I still remember. Like, some of my favorite quotes are in Price of Spring, and I also wept the most in Price of Spring. It's an excellent book.
And I know that doesn't necessarily mean characters dying.
No, it's an extremely moving book. It is an extremely moving book.
You know, I did not see myself crying during this book, but I know that if I cried during this one, it's gonna happen again.
If you cried in this one, you're definitely crying in Price of Spring. Enjoy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Enjoy.
I'll be taking a pose of sadness.
I have to finish Dragonfly Falling first, but after that,
I want to freaking read Dragonfly Falling. I got 2 other books in the bleeding way.
you're gonna love it.
Look, I'm glad that Klaus didn't hate Empire. That makes me so happy, because I was like, no, like, Klaus, I hope Klaus doesn't dislike it. But whew.
Yeah, I'm really glad that this time the read along is actually about a series that I really like. Like, I didn't hate Red Rising, obviously, but I wasn't the most excited about it. Yeah.
You didn't hate Red Rising.
No, he read the first 3.
Yeah. I guess the first one, it's here, it's on my shelf. It's prominently displayed on my shelf. There, somewhere.
Okay. I was of the impression, I don't know.
No, I gave the first one 3 stars, and then I think 3.5 and 4, because I didn't like the ending of Morning Star, just like everybody else in the live show.
Why not, Klaus?
Because if you write in first person, there are certain rules you have to follow as an author.
I know.
And that's why he started writing multi-POV.
Yeah,
I'm like 100% certain that's why.
That's why I'm writing in multi-person POV, although it's in first person, because then I can always change stuff. And yeah, but I'm not Pierce Brown.
If you break the rules,
sadly,
we will get you for it.
We will find you.
I can't wait to read Klaus's book and give it 1 star.
Yeah, you're welcome. There is no bad publicity. That doesn't exist.
That's true.
Especially with you.
Yeah. I think nobody has done more for John Gwynn's books than I have. Because nobody talks about them as often as I do.
With such disdain.
Yeah, I actually will read Ruin in December, I think. So, yeah.
Nice. Maybe you'll have something nicer to say about that one.
Maybe, but maybe it'll be just the title says it is. A ruin.
Or maybe he'll ruin your opinion of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and ruin your Christmas. Who knows?
Yeah, Anita, embrace the pain. That's my advice. That's a better one.
Yeah.
Is it in English, Klaus?
No, I'm translating it. I have 2 short stories out in English, but yeah.
It'd be really cool to hear your thoughts on what translating a book is like. like in video format.
About my books?
Yeah, like if you made a video talking about what it's like translating your book from German to English, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think I could do that, but only after I'm finished, because otherwise I'll feel the pressure. Like, oh no, now I really have to translate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm finishing the sequel right now, so after that I will translate them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sam just noticed I have a beard now, so yep.
Pop in.
Twirl
pop
my
out.
mustache.
I can basically do that. It's fun. If I don't keep cutting it off. So, any other concluding thoughts about Autumn War or the Long Price Quartet so far?
No.
Just that
Everybody should go read it.
Yeah.
Yep. Do
Yeah.
it. Just
You can,
give it
if you're having trouble finding the bind up, you can find the 2-book bind ups on Amazon for like $28, which is, you know, the price of 2 floppy paperbacks or two hardbacks. So you can find the 2-book bind ups on Amazon, but not the other bind up says it was limited availability, out of print, done, not out of stock, out of print. So
Yeah, you can buy mine for
$200,
$150 or something.
150. What about 150 Deutschmarks?
We have euros by now. Sorry.
I'll give you 150 Deutschmarks.
Who knows? We might use them once again in a couple of years. We might do the same thing the British did.
I'll give you 3 doubloons, Spanish doubloons.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for having us on, Pete. This was super fun.
Yes, I'm
was
glad
really
you
great.
guys are willing to come on and talk about this amazing book, because I don't know how I would process things otherwise, other than a lot of Voxer chats. So
Barnes and Noble has the bind ups. Online or in store? Because I know I've seen them in the store before. So your best bet, like,
because 4-book.
and did you buy that online or in the store? Because I have seen the 4-book bind up like in an actual physical big box bookstore. I'm looking right now.
I think my only thought now is that I need to like read Price of Spring and talk to you guys about it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, in store, because I just looked right now. It's out of stock online. So yeah. So your best bet if you want the 4-book bind up is to check your local bookstores.
Or the German Amazon, I think.
Yeah, but then you're paying $50 shipping.
Well, it's worth it.
Anyway, yeah, go read Price of Spring, guys, and then
Will do.
get back to us. So good.
We're back at the end of the week. Thank you so much, everybody. Go read Long Price Quartet. Finish reading it.
So good.
Spread the word. Spread the propaganda. It's an amazing thing, and we need to get it. We can get it back in print, guys. Right? Yeah.
That's right.
We can make the bride up again. Bye, everybody.